Hello, it's Simon here. I hope you're all doing well. I'm back in the workshop having a bit of a tidy up, and the thing that has struck me is it's all the things that don't have a dedicated home that I'm having to put away. So in this video I'm going to create some storage for one of those things, my bench cookies. Let's get tinkering. Now if you're wondering what bench cookies are, they are these things. You use them to support workpieces during the finishing process. I normally use them when I'm painting, and I use these cookie cones that go on top of them to provide some points for the piece to sit on while I'm painting it or varnishing it. Now I thought it might be useful to just take you through my design process. When I design something, I tend to draw it out in my sketchbook. So I've just got some pictures of my cones and my cookies, and my first idea of a design. This is a design you'll see quite often on YouTube. And I then sort of think about, can I make this? And is there anything about it that's going to be difficult for me? And so I've written some pros and cons here. I said that it's basically got a small footprint because it doesn't take up much more space than the cookie itself. But the cons are that I don't actually have a tube that's wide enough, and it doesn't have anywhere to store the actual cones for the cookies, so it only provides half a solution. This top piece here is open so that you can put the cookies in the top. My second idea was this dish type design. The main cons with this are the potential size of it, plus there's a slight curve on these cookies, which means that they don't stand up on their own, and I think I'll end up constantly rearranging them to try and keep them upright. So I don't think this is a goer either. I then thought, well, if I don't have a tube, could I just make a box? And whilst I could do this, it's a little bit ugly, so I've scrapped this idea. I don't think it's any good. And then it occurred to me that if I went back to the tube idea that I had at the start, but split the tube that I do have, which is a bit of guttering downpipe, down its length, I can open it out to make it wide enough with a piece at the top and a piece at the bottom to hold it in place, and then a slot at the top and a slot at the bottom. What this also adds that hadn't even occurred to me till I designed it was I'd be able to see how many cookies I've actually got in here, so if any of them are missing. It also means that the top isn't open, and because the top isn't open I can put a little dowel on the top, and the cones, the cookie cones, can sit on that dowel, so they'll be stored as well. So it seems to solve most of the problems. I now just need to see if I can actually make it. So I've raided my scrap bin, and these are all the parts that I need. Got a little bit of broken dowel, just a scrap piece of 18mm board, bit of pine, and a short section of guttering downpipe. Now I can't be the only person that keeps things like this, but if I am, let me know. My first job is to mark how much of this pipe that I actually need. So I've just got another piece of 18mm board, and I'm going to put the cookies on top, and that's going to give me a mark where I need to cut. I can just about see that, so that'd be fine. Every operation in the workshop presents an element of risk. For this particular piece, being round, the blade's going to have a tendency to want to move the workpiece like this. So if I hold this on the outside, I have a tendency to want to trap my fingers and potentially cause a bruise. If I put my fingers on the inside, there is a potential for me not to, because I can't see my fingers, for my fingers to touch the blade. But I can see that I can't actually get my fingers anywhere close to the cut line, and by holding it like this, I feel I've got quite a lot of control, and I've got control of both pieces for when I get through to the other side. So cutting it like this, for me, it's below my risk threshold, and therefore I'm happy to do it. Everyone's different. Everyone needs to make these sorts of decisions themselves. I'm now just going to mark a line that I also need to cut. That's the same depth as the board that's going to be at the bottom. I'm not sure yet exactly how far I'm going to cut this line. If you haven't got one of these white paint pens in your workshop, they're definitely worth getting for this sort of task. I use them quite a bit. I'm surprised really that I did use it as much as I did once I got it. The other thing I use them for is on black plugs, writing the name of the tool on the plug, which might seem a bit odd, but when you've got lots of things plugged in, you can see exactly what tool is turned on and what one isn't. So if you need to unplug something like the table saw and its plug got written on it table saw, you know you're unplugging the right thing. You can't make any mistakes. I need the holes for the cookies to be put in and taken out from to be slightly thicker than the cookie itself, so I'm just using this shim as a guide. Okay, and I'm not completely sure exactly how far I'm going to go out yet. Okay, so that gives me an idea of where I need to cut. I've drawn circles on this piece of scrap wood that are the size that I want for the cookies. I don't have a hole cutter large enough to cut these, so I'm going to cut them on the bandsaw. I've just changed to a thinner blade on the bandsaw, so hopefully I can cut them out in one go. So I've cut these out by hand. And whilst they're a little rough, because they're going to be lined with the pipe, you're not actually going to see it anyway. And you can see that they're pretty much exactly the same as each other. So I'm quite happy with how they've turned out just by cutting them on the bandsaw. And this level of evenness is enough for what I want to do. I'm going to warm this up with a hot air gun, and it'll have a tendency to want to separate and go larger. At least that's what I'm hoping. I've connected this, it's only got a very short lead, so I've connected it to the PowerMate on my Workmate. If you haven't seen that video, it is one of my most popular ones, so have a look at it. You can see it's starting to open a little bit. And there's a slight curve inwards just here and just here, and I think when I cut these notches out to allow the cookies in and out, that this is then going to spring down and close up, which I don't want. Now I can probably heat these up and bend them out again, or I might just end up cutting them off or making them smaller so there's less tension, but we'll see once I've cut these. So I've now got to cut along here, along here and along here on all four sides. I'll give that a go now. So I'm going to cut these with a panel saw. I'm using the top and the bottom that I've cut just to hold it all rigid. I'm hoping this is going to work. Just cutting the corners off, just so they don't get in the way of the cookies when they go in. And I'll do the same on these corners for when they come out. Before I glue it up and clean it up, I'm just going to do a dry fit to make sure things do actually fit okay and work as I expect it to. They'll fit nicely in there. And they come out easily enough. So that's good. I'm going to drill a hole in this piece. I haven't gone all the way through. It wouldn't really matter if I did. I've gone down about 1/2 inch in this piece, which is 3/4 of an inch. I'm just going to cut a tiny piece of dowel, put a little bit of glue in here, and just pop the dowel in. And get a cloth. Leave that to dry. I have this off-cut. I'm thinking that it'll make a good bracket. I have a tiny amount of paint left from my Dobsonian telescope mount build, which I'll leave a link to. Should be enough to just paint these parts. This is very nice paint, but it's also very expensive. I'm now ready to glue the bits in. Because I'm gluing wood to plastic, I'm going to use Yoo-hoo because it glues anything apparently. There's enough tension in the pipe squeezing it together, so I don't think I really need to add any more with a clamp or anything. Do the same with this piece. Instead of a clamp, just a bit of tape I think will be enough to pull the two pieces together. These aren't going to be used to hold the thing to the wall, they're just going to provide a flat surface against the wall. I'm going to use a couple of screws to connect it to the wall going through the pipe. Okay, that should do. Getting to the end now. All that remains is to drill the mounting holes. Now I'm positioning this above this socket, which will have cables going up the back, so I've chosen screws that I know are shallower than the wood at the back here. So that's another tool organised. I've got a lot of videos on workshop organisation, so I'll leave a link to a playlist in the description below. If you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up. If you've loved it, then please subscribe. Any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.